Hello, everybody. Welcome to another hair-raising, exciting, fun-filled, expeditious episode of Radiorama, where I primarily show you how to work on radios, radio-based electronics, basically anything that runs on glowing vacuum tubes from the 1920s all the way up to about the 1960s or thereabouts. And today we have a 1947 radio model 61-8 in a plain Bakelite case. Radiola is just a trade name that RCA Victor used. This is a conventional All-American 5-tube radio. The condition is unknown as far as whether it is working or not. It looks like it's been taken very good care of. Usually these backs don't survive. This one has. The Bakelite's in pretty good shape. It doesn't look like it's been scrubbed or cleaned, which is ideal. And let's go ahead and give it a test fire to see if we have any life out of it. I don't know if this has a pilot light. I don't see anything popping. And I'm looking through the case over the tops of the glass tubes, and I don't see any life. There seems to be no filament. If it would have come on by now, I hear nothing. The set is effectively dead, which could mean a lot of things. It could mean anything from a shorted power cord, a stuck power switch, a open resistor in the filament line, or a bad tube, because these are all stringed. They're connected into a series string, and if one of the filaments goes out in all the tubes, it's like old-fashioned Christmas lights. It won't work. It's dead. So let's go ahead and take it apart, and we'll find out what's going on inside and get a little bit of a better idea about what this set's service history might be, whether it's been worked on, whether it's been left alone, whether it's been hacked. I'm hoping that it's just been left alone. Yeah, as soon as I pulled the chassis out, I could see immediately why it wasn't working. Someone pulled the output tube, which is a 50L6. Luckily, I have scads of these. So we're going to stick that in the socket. And first of all, it's a very neat and tidy set. It's very clean. Speaker looks good. There's no rips or tears. There's no signs of corrosion, really. And it's been worked on. That's not the original electrolytic. That's probably 60s or 70s era Sprague Adams capacitors to it. I mean, I'm going to replace it, but it might very well still work. We can try it out. So let me go ahead and turn it on, plug it in. Yep, so you see now we've got pilot light that indicates that the series string is now whole again. And I'm prepared to yank it out of the wall, because 75% of the time these will hum from bad filter caps. The set kind of sort of works. Those electrolytics are on their very, very, very last legs. But that's a good sign. That probably means with the replacement of those two electrolytics here, 1, 2, the set will quite possibly work. There's two 40 microfarad electrolytics. And, you know, they're rated at 150 volts as typical. This is the common ground wire here. It looks like they're real close to each other. It's probably like put one positive here, one positive there, and then have them share the common negative ground. We also have the also important grounding cap that indicates this is not a hot chassis. This is a floating chassis set with one end of the AC plug going through this 1/10 of a microfarad cap, which is a value much, much too large. Needs to be more like 0.01 rated. We also have a shielding ground here for one, possibly two of the IF-RF related tubes. In fact, yes, there's two of those. Sometimes that can cause the set to fail the leakage onto the chassis test that I do. Sometimes I don't. We'll try it with those two leads soldered in there before I assume they don't work. The cord, it's probably best to replace it. The way I look at it, even if the cord is kind of okay, if it's the least bit dry rotted, imagine if someone owns this for 20, 30 years. Might as well go ahead and put a new cord on it and restart the clock on the degradation. Modern cords are good for 40, 50 years or more. So again, we've got 2 electrolytics to replace here. And I'm going to go ahead and replace this grounding cap and I'm going to replace this, the grounding cap, and then do a test to make sure we're still working. And then I'm going to replace the cord. And then we will proceed with the rest of the capacitor replacement, which isn't much. We've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 caps, not including the grounding cap, to replace. So pretty basic, simple, easygoing set. Alright, so we have our 2 electrolytics replaced. They're sharing a common ground there. And we've replaced this big fat 1/10 of a microfarad cap with this safety cap, across the line cap. 0.01 rated, guaranteed to split open in case of failure, which is much better than fusing together and making this a true hot chassis. So let's go ahead, test it out again, see if this makes any improvement in the performance, because it definitely was very marginal. So come on, you can do it.
Politically, he is rooted in the playoff conversation.
Pretty happy set. That's what I want to hear. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the cord and replace the rest of the caps in here. I had to replace this one also before I put this one in there to make room. So now we only have 4 capacitors left. And then I'm going to go over and get a cord. Anytime that I'm walking around or driving around and I see old lamps or appliances on the side of the road in the garbage, I always have a tendency to stop by and nab the cords off of them, because it sure beats having to go to the hardware store and buy it. And this is a nice brand new cord, and we'll just run it through the same holes as the original. It's got the plug built in, so we're going to get all modern like with the cord on this guy. The other thing I need to do is clean the volume pot. There's a little gap here where the leads go in, and there's a little space in there you can squirt your cleaner. That's important to get all the crap that's accumulated off of the wiper. So not much going on with this set. This is pretty much a full up, straightforward recap job if I've ever seen one, but who knows, maybe I'll eat my own words in here in a little bit. Okay, so now the set is fully recapped, and we got a nice new cord on it, and I cleaned the volume pot.
Southbound 17 before Brush Road, it's a spin out now out of the lane. There have been rocks and other material in the roadway, so heads up as you're rolling over the summit there.
Alright, so the next thing I need to do is, since we've got it recapped, I need to give it a safety check here. And I have my own little rig over here. It's connected to this polarity reversing box with a little probe that basically is going to measure how much current potential is on this chassis. Now we put a safety cap on it, but like I said, we have 2 leads coming off of some of the shields of these metal IFRF tubes, and sometimes that can cause me to get a not great reading. So what I'm going to do, I turn the set on and plug the test rig in, and we're going to measure what the threshold is. My allowable, whoops, let me turn that down. My acceptable threshold is going to measure 0.6 on the scale. Wow, that is just barely passing. Let me try the other. Yeah, that's nothing on that side. I think that's probably just about right. I could try cutting one of these shields here to see if that makes any sort of change. I mean, 0.63, That's probably fine. That's barely above it. But
That's on a whole other level.
this will be an easy enough thing to try out. Let's unplug it. I'm going to do some snipperoos here. Snip this guy. And where's the other one at? I thought there was a second one. I can't see without being... Ah, here it is. Well, that might explain something. We've got a fairly large value resistor going to chassis ground there. But I doubt the set's going to work without that resistor. But it can help confirm something. Alright, let's plug this back in. Okay. If it doesn't work, then it's not worth even testing. Yep, that completely killed it. 0.006 that direction. Nope, I've effectively killed the set, so I'll need to go back. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this resistor here. I think that's... I'm not good at remembering my stupid resistor values, but anyway, that's the wrong value that we usually put in these sets to bring the level of current down on the chassis. I'm probably just being OCD. It's basically just almost passing within like a fraction. It's probably good, but we'll see.
Yeah, the set of chains on the back, no matter what kind of tires.
Alright, the radio is working good with this replacement resistor. And now, that's well within threshold, 0.49, 0.5. Good. So now the state is, the state, I'm listening to the news. We've got a lot of snow up in the Sierras and a lot of people getting stuck up there. So if you're in that situation, be careful, drive safe, and if you don't think it's safe, pull over. Anyway, enough of that. So now the set is electrically brought back to being in good, solid working radio condition. Since it's actually a little bit sunny right now, I'm going to pause on the electronics and work on the case. The case which, as mentioned, seems to have been taken good care of. A lot of people, when they get these things, the first thing they want to do is take it over to the kitchen sink and scrub it with soap and water. You don't want to do that because what that does is it can remove the set's original casting, which is what gives it its shine. So again, all you want to use is car wax, preferably a Carnauba car wax, and just work your way through the surface to bring back the original luster. Okay, so this is after about an hour and a half of using Carnauba car wax, and you can see, it's kind of hard to film here, but you can get a really radiant, sort of almost swirly appearance. These were supposed to have been shiny when they came from the factory, so this is more accurate as far as how Bakelite is supposed to look. So anyway, if you spend your time, it's worth the effort. You can make even seemingly crappy Bakelite look almost like brand new. Alright, the last step that I'm going to take on this set is add the audio input feature. And a lot of people have asked me repeatedly, can you slow that down a little bit and see if you can show us how to do that in a little more detail. So I made an exploded diagram of how this works. So the little blue thing in the middle, that is called an isolation transformer. You can make them out of a wall wart, or you can buy these in bulk. I buy these in bulk from Alibaba. Primary is 110 volts in, and the secondary out is 12 volts. So if you think about it, a wall wart will do the same thing. If you can find the same configuration, you just crack it open, the transformer's inside. The primary goes to either side of the volume pot, and on the side that goes to the top of the volume pot, which is where the IF signal comes in, we put a 0.02 and a resistor approximately half the size of the resistance value of the potentiometer, basically the volume pot, on the top end of the pot. This will preserve the set's automatic gain control. Now on the other side, coming into the secondary, We have a pair of matching resistors. They can be anywhere from 75 to 100 ohms. It doesn't really matter that much. The right and left channels split in. They're split and they go down to 2 individual ends. And then those are tied together, and that gives you your true mono. The negative goes to the other side of the secondary winding. Now, we can't just slap it in there, because then you'd still have the possibility of the radio signal interrupting your audio. So usually what I'll do is I'll just cut the leads going to the top of the pot, which is usually feeding off of the first IF stage. They did it a little bit differently here. They've got a funny transformer here with a 5th leg. Bottom line, I had to cut the radio frequency directly from this transformer. This is the switch lead that'll come to the back. Then we can switch the radio IF signal on and off. We turn it off when we want to listen to audio or music or whatever. Turn it on when we want to restore proper radio functionality. What I'll do is usually scrape and abrade the bottom of both the isolation transformer and the surface it's going to mount to. I'm going to use a super glue gel. I find this brand works pretty well. And that'll glue the isolation transformer, and you want to get it as close as you can to the volume control. So I'm going to put it right in this space here. The switch will come out the back of the set. There's 2 covers. There's this cover and there's one cover that I have outside. And a little trick I've learned over the years, if you want to stiffen up your cardboard so it's a little stiffer when you attach the switch, I will paint both sides with polyurethane, and that helps stiffen it up. This is much stiffer than it was. Let it sit in the sun, cure a little bit. So we'll do that and make sure the audio still works, and we'll do a reassembly. This was really not that complicated of a set compared to a lot of the things I work on. Alright, so that seems to have been a success. Here we have our isolation transformer installed with the aforementioned parts. I laid them out before so you could actually see what they look like, because it's hard to film once it's installed. I put a little bit of glue and a knot with the audio cable that comes out, and I've got it running through my Bluetooth adapter. Anyway, still got a little bit of dirt in the volume pot. I'll probably clean that up a little bit more, but otherwise, before I button it up, I will put a little bit of glue over the top of all these resistors and stuff, just in case it comes loose one day. It's not going to bang up against anything. It's just me being OCD, but whatever. So let me clean that volume pot up a little bit more, and then we'll button this guy up, put it back in the case, put the little switch for the IF signal, and go to final test, and hopefully it'll be done. Welcome back to day 2 of working on the Radiola, and last night as I was putting it back together again, I thought I could end the episode, and then I realized the speaker was rubbing, had a rubbing voice coil. In a pinch, what you can do, and I'm not going to attempt to readjust it, but if you can grasp hold of the speaker frame, which is this oval, basically this oval basket, and then you get a wrench and you attach it at the back end and you torque it. Basically, you bend it until you can essentially get to a point where it doesn't make the rubbing noise anymore. I know it sounds stupid, but it's just a basic. It's basically doing a crude realignment of the center of the cone. And so then what I do is I'll play some really poppy music. It's absolutely, blasted away. I'm going to let it sit here for a few more songs and make sure that it's not going to snap back into its former position. Then I'll put it back into the frame, which is good. I really did not want to have to find another one of these and make some, drill some holes through the back of it and all that just to make it fit perfectly in this space. That would have been difficult. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It just happened to work this time. Alright, that seems to have solved our weird speaker issue. It's not my favorite music, but, you know, I have to anticipate someone that might get this in the future will play some really blasting, bassy music, and that's a good way to make sure that the speaker's not going to make any weird noises. So now all it's left to do is put it back in the cabinet. I got a few other little loose ends I need to take care of, but then we can give it a final test and hopefully put this guy in the can. Well, I'm not sure if maybe it's because the chassis tweaked itself a little bit when I put it back in the case, or maybe it's the back pressure from being in the cabinet, but the noise has returned, so I might have to replace the speaker after all. Hear that? Yeah, that is not acceptable. Someone's going to be really annoyed if they hear that. So sometimes you get a radio that's easy as apple pie and you think you're in the clear, like this one that I thought was going to be easy, and then you get others that turn out to be a pain. Okay, I lied. After looking at this thing, in order for this to fit, you have to cut the ears off of both sides. And before I do that, I'm going to give it one more adjustment here. And what I do is, this is a very fine tool. I'm going to put it, what I've been doing is I put it through here, and I grasp onto it, and I'll put my hands down around the base, and then I pull up on it. So what I'm doing is I'm slightly bending the speaker cage so I can maybe better align the coil here so it's not rubbing. I'll never know if it's going to work or not until I put it back in the case, which is just a pain in the ass, but you know, incremental little changes. Hopefully we'll get it done. Otherwise I will have to go to the museum, dig for speakers, and then use my cut-off tool to butcher the bottom so it'll fit in the case, which I really don't want to do. And probably whatever I get won't have these holes drilled through it for tapping the screws, which is just a royal pain in the ass. Alright, I found the reason why it's doing this. When you tighten up the screws that hold the chassis in, the speaker is getting squished up against the front of the cabinet and it's bending it over a little bit. So my way of fixing this is I'm going to add some spacers in front of those screws so that I can still tighten it down, but I'm not going to be crushing this, well, squishing the speaker up against the front of the cabinet like that. I know it's jerry-rigged, but that's going to solve the problem here. I just need to add a few spacers in there. Okay, well that little trick worked. Just put two little washers behind the screws here. There's one on each side. And that was just enough to back the chassis just a smidgen away from the front of the case, so the speaker's now not touching anything. That's much better. So this guy is pretty much done now. I just need to put the back on. It's been playing off and on for a day or so while I've been working through the bugs. So it's good to go as far as test-wise goes. Anyway, thanks so much for sticking with me, and hope you all enjoyed this episode as much as I enjoyed working on this radio. If you like what you see, please press that like button, tell your friends and family about this channel. And until the next time a radio comes across my bench, I'll see you next time.